Hey guys, welcome to the Trademark Like a Boss show. I'm Radiance Harris, founder and managing attorney of Radiance IP Law. I help emerging businesses protect, monetize, and grow profitable brands with trademarks. And today we're going to be talking about mental health and entrepreneurship. I have the lovely Esther Boykin here with me today. And if you are watching live, be sure to say hello in the comments. Engage with us. If you watch the replay, be sure to drop the hashtag replay. I must apologize. I am a little under the weather today, so I am sounding a little nasally, but we're going to push through it regardless. So welcome to the show, Esther. I'm excited to have you.
I am excited to be here. Thank you.
Yes. So please introduce yourself to our viewers. Let them know who you are, what you do, and who you serve.
Sure. So I'm Esther Boykin. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist, although all of my entrepreneur and business owner friends always tell me I need to lead with the fact that I'm also the CEO of a private practice, or, we do more than just private practice. So I'm a CEO of Group Therapy Associates. In terms of what I do a gazillion things. I always like to say I'm a very Jamaican stereotype, 10 jobs. But primarily I spend the majority of my time managing my practice. I've got 14 therapists on staff, as well as like administrative staff and those kinds of, team to kind of support us in that work. I host retreats, I host events, I do a little bit of writing. I do a lot of speaking and presenting. I do a lot of other things, but we will take up all 15 minutes if I talk about it all. So,
right. Well, I'm so excited to have you on the show today. So Esther is actually a client of mine, but actually we were able to connect even further when I attended one of her retreats a couple of years ago. And what was so fascinating about this retreat, it was a retreat that was focused on entrepreneurship, and it was kind of advertised as this reset kind of retreat. And it was an absolute blast. But to be honest, it was my first time really being introduced to the importance of mental health, particularly as an entrepreneur. And so, I can go more and more into that experience, but I'd love to hear from you, Esther, about that particular topic. Why is mental health so important, particularly in entrepreneurship?
Yeah. So, I actually really talk a lot about mental health and entrepreneurship. One of sort of my goals or my values, just in terms of starting my business and the work I do, has always been how to make mental health more accessible to groups of people who are typically overstressed and then underrepresented in terms of like typical therapy clients. And entrepreneurs actually fall into that category. Like, the reality is that entrepreneurship, for any of us who are doing it, whether you're doing it part-time, full-time, wherever you are in your journey, is incredibly stressful. And you, obviously, over time, you want to scale and you want to grow. But the truth is that you are the heart and soul of your business, right? Like, you're the foundation. And so recognizing that while you grow this business, it's taking a toll on you, and being able to take good care of yourself is imperative, not just for your health and your well-being and your relationships, but it's also imperative to the success of your business. Entrepreneurs actually experience higher rates of depression, of anxiety, of self-harm, like things that we just don't talk about. And part of, we want to sell what we do. So as entrepreneurs, we often sort of move through the world with a mask on. We don't have a lot of space. And that's one of the things Rita, the co-facilitator of that retreat, and I talked a lot about was, you have clients, you want them to feel like you're always at 100%. You've got staff, you need them to feel like you're 100%. You've got family, you've got people who maybe were questioning your entrepreneurship journey. And so we're always wanting to seem like we've got it together. And so it's important to have a space that feels comfortable and safe to talk about the ways in which running your own business is actually very, very difficult.
It is extremely difficult. It's like some days you're feeling on top of the world, and other days you're like in the fetal position, so it's like, it's a serious mind fuck, if you will, as an entrepreneur. And so I know for me, like, I've been going to therapy myself consistently for almost a year. and it's been very helpful. And so why do you think why is like going to therapy so taboo, or for people in general, why do you think people kind of avoid therapy?
I mean, certainly there's a lot of, we can get deep dive into all of the cultural stigma and the idea of like, well, therapy is only if you're crazy or if it's a
Right.
crisis. But I think also, like, I love what you shared. We were talking about the retreat I think it's a good example, right? Like,
Yeah.
if we had marketed that retreat, if we had talked about it as come and let's explore how your mental health affects your business. Let's get into why therapy is really good for you, right?
Right.
The majority of people who came on that retreat would not have signed up for that retreat because, and some of that is stigma, but some of it is also like you look at your life and you go, well, I don't really need therapy. I'm fine.
Right.
What would I talk about? My mental health is fine, right? Like I get up every day, I go to work, I'm fine. And there's a lot of space between mental health crisis, right? Or mental illness and needing more support around your mental health, which really is, for me, why therapy is not a dirty word is such an important like campaign and has grown into an entire division of like my business. It's to me, that's the access point. It's the way of sort of helping us move to different conversations around that therapy isn't just because something is broken or wrong with you. It's really about how do I support myself so I can continue to be my best self. The same way you go to the gym, the same way you think about what you eat, the same way you read and like take courses as, for your business. Like this is another aspect of taking good care of yourself so that you can do the things you want to do.
So what are some things that you offer or provide under your therapy is not a dirty word brand?
So for me, therapy is not a dirty word is basically everything that we do as a business that is not like direct client therapy services, right? So the bread and butter, the core of what we do at Group Therapy Associates is obviously providing therapy. Couples, kids, families, that's what we do. So therapy is not a dirty word is the umbrella or the bucket, however you want to imagine it, that holds like everything that is not quite actually seeing a therapist. So we do, in fact, coming up this Friday is one of our events. We do these therapy is not a dirty word salons. So it's sort of part happy hour, part, in-depth conversation and dialogue between therapists and just the general public, whoever wants to come out, where we talk about different themes related to mental health. We sell cute tote bags and merch. We offer, webinars and workshops. Really excited to get back, hopefully in 2022, to doing actually in-person retreats. All of those things kind of fall into the therapy is not a dirty word under that brand.
Got it. So share with me what made you decide to trademark therapy is not a dirty word, being that it's not your primary business focus. What made you decide to pursue trademark protection for that?
So I think I initially started thinking about it just because it really caught on. Like therapy is not a dirty word started out as a social media campaign. It was a hashtag that we kind of built some social media marketing around. And it just, more than anything that I had done it up until that point, it really took off. People resonated with it. And I began to see like other people putting out shirts or starting to use this hashtag in ways so that they could make money, and started to realize like, well, I sort of built this, right? Like certainly I wasn't the only person to ever utter that sentence, but like I built this as kind of a movement and a campaign. And so that was my initial thought process around it. And I wanted to do some things, right? Like at the time I was actively doing a podcast and I had turned it into the happy hours. That was the first therapy is not a dirty word sort of event or product that people could buy, was these happy hours, which I was doing in multiple cities at that point. So DC, New York, LA, Philly, London, like we were doing all this stuff, and it made sense for me to just sort of like take some ownership. What I think twofold. So because the event started to grow, I started thinking a lot about what else might I want to do with therapy is not a dirty word. Like it's not the place where I'm investing the bulk of my money or my focus right now in my business, but in 3 years, in 5 years, in 10 years, how does this fit into like my larger vision of like my business plan? how I want this company to grow. And I started to realize like, oh, there's all these other things I want to do outside the office that really tie into kind of my values and my mission around making therapy more accessible. And so that made sense. The upside, which I don't know if other people know this, and I don't think that, even though I thought about it, I don't know that I talked to you about this, even though I'm your client. Going through the trademark process ended up actually being a really helpful business exercise for me, right? Like I decided to trademark it because I thought there were things that I wanted to develop eventually down the road.
Right.
But actually filling out the forms and having to like kind of think about the different classes forced me to also like sit with myself around like, okay, well, what are the short-term goals? Like, what do I really want to do so that I can be clear about why am I trademarking in this particular, like, is that really something we want to do? So that was, for me, that was a, like kind of a bonus that came out of the process. Was it really helped me to get clearer on some things.
I love that. And I'm glad it did. And the big point that I got from what you shared is that starting the trademark process when you did gave you the options later. As your brand continues to expand, you have that option now. Because let's say you had waited to do it, you might not have had the option to trademark it if you waited, right? And so by starting it when you did, and really thinking about where you see the future of your business going, allowed you to really tailor into those things, but then it allows you the option to then do those things later. So when you choose, because in your case, like, our process was a lot longer because you did based on an intent to use, which means a lot of people don't know that you can file a trademark based on an intent to use, even if you haven't started using it in certain ways. But if that's a part of your vision, it's still good to lock it down as you did sooner rather than later. So kudos to you. And so how would you describe the trademark experience overall? How would you describe your experience?
I mean, I feel like I learned a lot. And I also think, and this is sort of a broader business lesson that I have come to recognize over the last several years, is it's really helpful to hire somebody who is an expert in the thing that you're trying to do. Like for me, that ended up being like the most helpful thing. And as somebody who is always sort of like, I'm smart, I'll figure it out, I can DIY things. And and I know like it's an option. I think you and I even like sort of talked about like, oh, you can get guidance and then you can do it. Like sometimes it's really helpful to just sort of have someone else be like, okay, I'm going to keep track of deadlines and I'm going to get the forms and we're going to file this stuff. And like recognizing, I think, again, just for other people, it's sort of noticing where your strengths lie. Yeah. Like attention to detail in that way is not one of my strengths. So like for me, I think the trademark process would have been much more challenging had I not said, yeah, no, we're going to talk and then you're going to make sure I like all the things I'm supposed to do get done. Versus me trying to manage it. So for me, it was really easy. And like I said, eye-opening in terms of what are my real goals for my business and for this brand.
I'm glad to hear that. Thank you for sharing that. So as we wrap up the show, please share with our viewers, how can they get in contact with you, connect with you, learn more about your offerings?
Absolutely. So you can find me like on all the social medias, but I am most active and responsive on Instagram, but I'm on all the places at Esther B MFT. You can also, if you want to kind of see more about what Therapy is Not a Dirty Word is all about and what kinds of offerings we're doing, including if you're in DC, we've got an event on Friday. We'll have some online stuff coming. So that's therapyisnotadirtyword.com. I would like to say, like, just sort of in the vein of how I'm growing that brand, going into next year, we'll be developing, some members only content, some resources, some like really kind of great ways for people to dip their toe in the therapy waters before they actually get a therapist of their own.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Esther. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. This has been so fun.
Yes. Well, thank you all for tuning in to today's Trademark Like a Boss show. I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care. Bye.
Everyone.